Okay, today we're jumping straight into a really fascinating journey to completely dismantle a massive, long-standing cultural misconception. We're going to pull back the curtain and look at a vibrant demographic that has literally been a part of Europe's landscape for centuries, yet somehow frequently finds their very identity questioned. I want you to take just a second. Picture the stereotypical image of a German citizen. The image exported by Hollywood and centuries of literature. You're probably picturing someone with very specific, historically standardized features, right? Well, that immediate visual you just had in your head, that is exactly the assumption we're going to challenge right now. Just listen to these powerful words from Afro-German journalist Jana. She cuts right to the chase and completely shatters the stereotype. The reality is, identity is incredibly complex. Being Black and being German are not mutually exclusive, even if society often acts like they are. So here is our roadmap for today. Number 1, the myth of white Germany. Number 2, a hidden 400-year history. Number 3, the politics of appearance. Number 4, confronting everyday racism. And number 5, reclaiming space and empowerment. Let's dive right in. Section 1, the myth of white Germany. Shattering the visual stereotype. 1 million. That's a huge number, and it represents the approximate population of Black people living in Germany today. Their presence is an undeniable, concrete demographic reality. Yet you have individuals like hip-hop artist Sammy Deluxe who recall growing up actually wishing they were white, just to avoid the confusion and the isolation of being caught between two perceived cultures. Section 2. A hidden 400-year history, tracing the roots of racism. This history goes way back, starting in 1884 with the Berlin Conference, where European nations literally carved up Africa. Then we hit the shameful 1920s, where human beings were exhibited in human zoos, forced to perform what was perceived as African culture. This led directly into the terrifying silencing of the 1930s and 40s under the Nazi regime, and ultimately culminated in a heartbreaking wave of brutal racist attacks in the 1990s in reunified Germany. And this colonial history is baked right into everyday life. Take Berlin's street names, for instance, or the German term Moor. Now, its ancient Greek and Latin roots simply mean dark or black, but its historical and cultural usage, that is heavily loaded with ideas of inferiority. Used to mean things like stupid, heathen, or primitive. It just goes to show how much historical baggage our everyday words actually carry. Which brings us to a truly chilling anecdote from Theodor, an Afro-German man born in Berlin in 1925. During the Nazi era, he noted that the Black population was so small, they felt completely expendable, totally invisible. He survived by literally keeping his head down and deliberately avoiding white women to escape forced sterilization or charges of racial defilement. It's just a harrowing testament to survival through self-erasure. Section 3. The politics of appearance. The struggle over identity and hair. Okay, to really understand this physical policing, we have to look at global racial categorizations, like the infamous pencil test used during South African apartheid. A pencil was placed in a person's hair. If it fell out, they were categorized differently than if it stayed in place. It's a horrific, totally arbitrary method of classification, but it perfectly illustrates the deeply rooted global obsession with categorizing Black features. And the sheer absurdity of these cultural labels becomes so obvious when you look at artist Robin Rode. Under South African apartheid, he and his family were classified as colored or mixed race. But in the German context, people view him as Arab. It just proves that these rigid boxes aren't real. They're entirely manufactured by the societies trying to impose them. This manufactured policing heavily impacts Afro-German women today, too. On one hand, there's this awful stereotype that natural Afro hair is messy, wild, or unprofessional, which causes real trouble in corporate environments like law offices. But then, on the reality side, the natural hair movement is this incredibly powerful political statement of self-acceptance. It's about allowing people to just feel comfortable in their own skin, no apologies needed. Section 4. Confronting everyday racism, the micro and macro aggressions. The spectrum of racism we're talking about here is incredibly wide. We're talking daily hostilities. It ranges from invasive microaggressions like strangers touching someone's hair and comparing it to a bird's nest on national television, to terrifying violent macroaggressions.
Take Issa, a young apprentice roofer from Burkina Faso living in eastern Germany. He was brutally beaten by a right-wing attacker at a local store, and the bystanders? They did absolutely nothing. It is a daily environment of hostility.
And racism invades even the most intimate personal spaces. Take Indira's heartbreaking story. Her biological mother actually gave her away to protect her, because her husband was a violently racist right-wing extremist who literally tried to harm Indira when she was just an infant. When Indira finally tracked down and met her biological mother years later, the very first sentence she heard was, "I didn't want you to turn out so black."
Section 5. Reclaiming Space and Empowerment. Forging a New Afro-German Identity.
But here is where we shift gears, because to combat these stereotypes, so many have carved out what Sammy Deluxe calls a home court advantage. For Sammy, it was mastering hip-hop, DJing, and graffiti, creating a space where his identity was entirely celebrated. For Jana, it meant breaking massive barriers to become the first Black female news anchor in Germany, becoming the exact role model she never had. And for others, it means representing the nation at the absolute highest level on the German national soccer team. A key pillar of all this empowerment is community building. The Initiative of Black People in Germany has been doing this incredibly important work for over 30 years. And fascinatingly, it was actually sparked by the American writer and Black feminist Audre Lorde. She was teaching in Berlin and noticed that the Black women attending her readings didn't even know each other. So she connected them, creating a vital, life-saving network to share their collective experiences.
So the really crucial point here is that in this context, self-care is fundamentally redefined. It's not just some trendy hashtag. When you exist in a society influenced by systemic racism, protecting yourself physically and mentally, whether that's getting involved in politics, doing yoga, or honestly just drinking a smoothie, becomes a vital, deeply political act of survival and strength.
This kind of grit is beautifully captured by Gerald Asamoah, an absolute legend of the German national soccer team. Despite helping Germany secure third place in the 2006 World Cup, he still faced horrific monkey chants shortly after. It's an incredibly complex, heavy emotional burden, giving your absolute all for a country, while elements of that very country still refuse to fully accept you. But he pushed forward with just undeniable determination. And seeing this evolution of self-acceptance is truly inspiring. Think back to what we discussed at the very beginning of the explainer. Rapper Sammy Deluxe, who once wished for white skin just to avoid sticking out. Now, he stands firmly in his identity, stating unequivocally that he wouldn't trade his skin color for anything in the world. I want you to consider this profoundly beautiful thought. My blackness blooms and becomes my beauty. It is such a poetic summary of this entire journey. It's a massive celebration of inner strength, recognizing that identity isn't just a label imposed from the outside. It is a source of immense pride, beauty, and blooming resilience.
So, I'm going to leave you with this final question. How does understanding this hidden 400-year history reshape your view of who gets to belong? I really encourage you to reflect on your own biases, challenge the stereotypes you've been taught, and carry this broadened, much more truthful perspective of identity out into the world.